Unsettled. As you probably guessed by the title, we're going to be discussing and going over the case of Mr. Cruel, the most sadistic, perverse, rapist, not necessarily a murderer, but he's got a few things under his belt, should we say.
Yeah, like rapist, abductions, and a suspected murder.
Yeah. So we're going to be going over the case today. It happened in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Happened in Australia, and we will say that viewer discretion is advised. Now, before we begin, because it does get a little bit disturbing, a bit mentally scarring.
Oh yes.
But at the same time, it's one of the cases that could be possibly our worst one that we will discuss with you guys, and I don't know, could be way up there with probably the most horrific. I'll go with horrific, I think. That one's
Horrific.
You just don't like this full stop, do you?
No.
Right, in that case, let's get into it. August the 22nd in 1987 in Melbourne, Australia at 4 AM on a Saturday. A masked man was outside the family's home. How long was he there for? No one knows. He's just watching, Will. He's not doing anything.
Yeah, just thought of it.
Someone just watching you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's scary.
Constantly.
Like all the time.
Exactly. You don't know when they start, when they finish. Carry on.
I will. Let's wait for that to just end. But you're going to kiss me. I'm not that lucky. He removed a pane of glass and entered the home. He made his way to the parents' bedroom, armed with a knife and a gun. He awoke the parents and said he wanted money. So at this point, he's basically coming across as just a regular thief or a regular burglar or just some kind of petty criminal at this point. He demanded the parents roll onto their stomachs. He tied their hands and feet up together using a, what's the word?
A nautical sailor's knot.
Which he cannot find out what type of knot it is.
No, there's three kinds of nautical sailor knots. And one is a rigging knot, one's an anchor knot, and another one is just a general knot that they would use.
Okay.
So
we still don't actually know what type of knot it was,
no.
But it was a sailor's knot.
Yeah.
And it bugs you to know, not
it
know
does
what
bug me.
Right. So if you want to leave in the comments what type of knot it could have been, you got three choices, it'll wind them up either one.
Oh yes.
He then ordered both the mother and father into a wardrobe after covering their eyes and mouth with surgical tape, which he brought with him.
Mm-hmm.
Very thoroughly planned out.
By this point you would think so.
Yeah. He told them if they were to move or get free, he would kill them. He made his way around the house, opening bedroom doors. He opened the 6-year-old son's bedroom. The masked man blindfolded and tied the son to his own bed.
Mm-hmm. Now, bearing in mind, he didn't harm this child.
He just tied him up and told him to be quiet.
Yeah. But the thoughts running through the 6-year-old's head at this point in time, you know, you've just been woken up by a stranger.
With a balaclava.
With a balaclava. Bound and gagged and told to keep quiet.
And told, be still, don't make a noise.
Yeah.
You don't like this at all, do you?
No.
He then made his purpose known. Well, to himself, but I'm pretty sure he knew what his purpose was. He opened the 11-year-old daughter's bedroom. Now, as we said before, viewer discretion advised, it gets a little bit heavy, and this is why we're the Unsettled. Yeah. Over the next 2 hours, and then some, the masked intruder raped and sexually assaulted the 11-year-old. Taking breaks from his sick and perverted desires, he walked around the family's home. He even made himself a meal downstairs. Then he began to carry on with his demented desires.
Perverse.
We discussed this in previous cases, but the idea of an intruder in your home
is more bone chilling
than, say, a ghost.
Yes. or an alien?
The hours passed, and the masked intruder soon left. After having his way with this 11-year-old, he left with a few records and a blue denim jacket. This mysterious psychopath then had left his mark that would traumatise and haunt Australia for decades afterwards. Now, if you haven't guessed, as I said before, that's just a teaser into what else Mr. Cruel managed to get up to. And viewer discretion advised yet again. We are not responsible. This could get traumatic, and it's making you feel a bit uncomfortable, isn't it? See, to me,
the thing is, as I said, it's more of the home invasion.
A home invasion, and even as we discussed in previous cases with the haunted Kaifek farm, someone living above you in your own home where you're meant to be safe, and now you're not. You don't know how to do that. What about if I stayed in your home for like 30 days and you didn't know I was there? I was just watching you.
Same thing. As soon as you find out that someone's been there, you know what I mean? It gives you that uneasy feeling.
It's like if someone ever found a spare key. That's why I don't really like letting people in the house. They might just walk off with my front door key, and the next thing I know, I end up with like pornography smashed across the walls and all my secrets lead.
Or left with just a table and chairs.
Pretty much all I've got now. So the police at this point were stumped. They went over the events and nothing matched the cases and crimes in the local area. The daughter said he made a call as she was laid in the bed. Apparently he used the home phone, yet when the police checked, no calls had been made. Was this a red herring, do you think? Do you reckon he wanted people to hear a certain tone of voice?
It sounds like it. But then again, if he used a mobile phone or something, you can't really track a mobile phone. Like,
judging by when this case happened, 1987, there's no mobile phones.
Well, there is. There's the brick ones.
1987, I wasn't even born yet.
No, but there was mobile phones, but there were brick phones.
He made a call in the house. He just didn't make a call in the house. So the police did check and no calls had been made. Nothing was found, no data or any DNA anywhere.
No, physical or biological.
The 11-year-old was also wiped clean of any substances or DNA.
He was cleaned from head to toe.
Why do you think this attack happened? Just a random one at this point? Or was he just testing what he could get away with? Well,
it's too early to...
Well, a year later, it happened again. Same setup, 27th December 1988. John Willis and his wife and 4 daughters were sleeping. Their home broken into. 5:45 AM. John awoke to a gun to his head. Mr. Core arrived. He looked at John and whispered, "Don't be a hero." It's not something you really want to wake up to.
Not really.
I'd just, like, sometimes I sleep in my pants. Wouldn't really want to attempt to be a hero.
I often
especially my pants.
Yeah, you're kind of
You're a bit
very
exposed.
vulnerable.
Especially if you slept naked. Don't be a hero. I'm naked, mate. I'm not planning on it.
Yeah, don't you be a hero.
I ain't got me cape on. She had a rough night. She had it like. Otherwise, we'd have done the whole superhero routine. She likes role play. Ugh. Mr. Call told them to roll onto their stomachs. He tied them with copper wire this time and blindfolded and gagged them. Mr. Call stated, "I'm only here for money." He stole $35 and cut all the phone lines.
Maybe learn from last time.
Maybe. I don't think the tape really caused much of a... I mean, if I was bound and gagged with tape...
It gave him enough time.
Gave him a good 8 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm not being funny, but if I was bound and gagged in tape, I wouldn't see that as threatening as someone wrapping me in copper wire. I'd see the copper wire more of as a threat. I don't know. I just thought tape you could break out of, more or less. He opened the bedroom where John's daughter slept. This time, he called out to one of the girls by her first name, Sharon. Blindfolded and gagged, he began. He left with her and some clothes. John got free and ran to the neighbour's home after he realised the phone lines were cut. Then his nightmare kicked in. Sharon had been taken. 18 hours passed. Police had no leads, nothing at all at this point. Like, how can you not have a lead at this point? So, as I said, 18 hours had passed and the police hadn't got anywhere. Then a woman spotted a young girl wrapped in green garbage bags. Of all the things you're going to wrap her up in, green garbage bags. It was Sharon and she was alive. The police state she was in very good spirits for someone that had been abducted.
Yeah.
How can you be in good spirits if you're abducted? Like, if I'm abducted and they drop me home and don't kill me, I'm going to be pissed off. I'll be like, why didn't they do the job? What did they want me for? They didn't get no money, no one wants me. So no, this woman found Sharon and Sharon was told to ring home. The woman rang the police and now the investigation was set. The investigation itself and assaults were just the beginning. Sharon said she was blindfolded throughout everything, so she didn't even see who Mr. Cruel was. She saw literally nothing, and she said Mr. Cruel was soft-spoken and cared about her. Sharon stated he was gentle with me.
Oh.
Just that line.
Oh.
He was gentle with me. Like... How... You know what? I'm not even going to go into it. How can...
It's... No.
He was gentle with me.
Gentle with me. Oh, it just makes you feel sick, doesn't it?
And we've just eaten.
Yeah.
Feel it coming back up in your throat?
Not yet.
But she did. Sharon was fed a sandwich, given milk and lemonade to drink before she was dropped off. She had been thoroughly washed, so all DNA was now gone.
Yet again.
Her teeth was brushed. Her fingernails and toenails clipped. She was, as the police stated, taken care of. So Mr. Cruel took care of her and was gentle with her. How do you feel now?
Creeped out.
Yet, as we did say, viewer discretion is advised, she was sexually assaulted. The police tried to figure out the sexual assaults in the area, still no match. They did keep details away from the public at this point, and they were
not to cause
alarm, concern.
Because there was a few other happenings going on around the area at that time. They didn't want to cause a mass panic, basically.
So they kept a lot of details under wraps at this point, and the police was now certain that terror would strike again. The family of Sharon all slept in the same room after the attack. John lived with the guilt, and the police still had little to no evidence. But one piece of evidence did remain. Sharon stated she heard planes. So it was a few years later, yet the police made note of the planes, knowing the attacker was in the area of the Melbourne area.
Melbourne Airport. So they did do a thorough search around that area.
The next time Mr. Cruel struck, he struck the Linus family, if I'm not mistaken. They were a rather well-off family. They was renting the property like the others in the area. On July the 3rd in 1990, the family would be in panic. Both parents were at a business farewell party as the family was moving back to England. At midnight, the two girls, 15-year-old Fiona and 13-year-old Nicola, awoke to a masked man in the house. That must be a fucking scary thought if you're that young and you've got a masked balaclavaed man in the house. Especially if you've heard what's happening. If you knew, like, if your parents had been telling you, like...
Or been talking, like, lock the doors before...
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's in your home. Like, you're like, okay. He ordered Nicola... Is it Nicola? Yeah, Nicola. To get her uniform, armed with a gun and a knife. He tied the eldest and took Nicola's uniform off of her. Took the family's rental car and drove it for 1 mile then dumped it. Brian and Rosemary, is that her name? Linnaeus?
It's Linnaeus, I think.
Linnaeus?
Yeah.
Posh people. Found their daughter tied to her bed with a message of $25,000 as a ransom for their daughter. The police again found no evidence. This guy is like a ghost. How can you enter a property and not leave evidence, even if it is just a piece of hair? Like, right, he's wearing a balaclava, I get it. But
that would cut down on losing a hair or skin follicles, but not leaving a trace. You know, you would imagine that you would leave a trace on, say, the first one,
like the tape, or like the
tape, or
there'd be fingerprints on it, surely.
Or you would think that maybe he was wearing gloves, but they didn't. They never mentioned.
They never mentioned he was wearing gloves.
No.
So investigations at this point looked into Brian's business, but came up with nothing. Fortunately, Nicola was found alive 50 hours after being abducted.
Yeah, it's one of the longest ones.
It was her 14th birthday.
Exactly. On the day of her 14th birthday.
It's like he knew it was her 14th birthday. Oh, I better drop you home to Mummy and Daddy because they probably got you presents. Because you've already had mine.
Maybe he's turned a bit over his age limit.
She was found in a blanket. Nicola provided details no one else could. She said the man stood about 5'8", going off of her own height. She also said the abductor had real brownish hair. She also gave details of his house and vehicle. She was blindfolded a lot of the time, but said she had
managed to sneak.
Yeah, she had chances, so she
had
looked
chances
around.
and views.
So she looked around, obviously. She told the police the bedroom
Smart
she was
child.
Yeah, she told the police the bedroom she was in, and so forth. She also had been washed and fed throughout her captivity. Okay.
It's like he's abducting them, caring for them, using them, and then sending them back.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're done.
Yeah, I'm tired of you now.
But he didn't kill them.
No.
And he had every opportunity to.
He had every chance.
Not being funny, he knew he wouldn't get caught. This is someone who knows they're not going to get caught.
He's not. He demands money, yes, but he's not
He
out for money.
He didn't wait for money, did he? He literally gave her back. No ransom was ever exchanged.
No.
She also stated that she was put into a neck brace fastened to the bed. She said he spoke as if someone was in the room with him, but heard no one else.
Maybe another red herring. Maybe another phone call that didn't happen.
She stated she heard planes that sounded close and low. This gave investigators an idea yet again. Mr. Crawl lived close to the airport.
Yeah, to Melbourne Airport.
She and Sharon also said they heard and saw a camera at the bottom of the bed set up on a tripod. Which then
hence that's why they suspected a lot of child pornography, like the bring of child pornography, whether he was keeping it, whether he was swapping it with other.
It does seem like the police are sleeping on this until Mr. Cool slips up.
Yeah,
until he makes a mistake.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be doing their
classic police work.
But if you think that's bad, the worst is yet to come. John and his wife worked hard and often, how do I put it, till late.
Yeah.
Mr. Crawl knew this, and the detective said the family was clearly watched by habit. As of April the 13th, 1991, yet again a Saturday, Mr. Crawl preyed upon the family. Carmen was the target, despite John and his wife having other daughters. They saw Mr. Crawl in the kitchen. I only want money. He forced Carmen's sister into a closet. Then Carmen showed Mr. Crawl where the money was.
He showed them the safe.
Yep, but she led him by hand like, I will show you where it is kind of thing.
Mm.
I bet she was kind of scared at this point.
You would think that she was very much paralysed by fear, and that's her way of dealing with it.
Mr. Cruel locked the 2 younger sisters in the closet by a bed, then left with Carmen.
Yeah, he pushed the bed up against and barricaded it in.
Sisters broke out and called their father. Police arrived. No evidence yet again, only the words payback. Asian drug dealer.
Yeah.
More to come. Written upon their car.
Yep.
That doesn't sound to me like
it doesn't sound like Mr. Cruel.
It doesn't. It does with the money. It does with the kidnapping of Carmen.
He's one-upping himself every time. He's improving, he's getting better.
Wrong choice of words.
No, but I'm saying that's what he's doing in that point of view. He's doing one more.
He's gathering experience in what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay. The police used dogs to try and trap Mr. Cruel to the parking lot where he had made his getaway. Something bad was going on with this abduction though. Despite the girls previously coming home, Carmen did not. The writing on the car was nothing but a red herring. Yet again, Mr. Cruel preyed upon the families and I guess the daughters that he seemed to be scoping out. The investigation had gone nowhere. Months had passed and money was issued on a return. Which, you know, nearly a year later, still nothing. I thought Mr. Cruel would have dropped it back by now. You'd think it, wouldn't you?
You would think so.
I mean, what was the last one? 50 odd hours?
50 hours.
And then this one, oh fuck it, we keep her a year. Nearly a year later, in April 9th, 1992, a man stumbled upon a body while walking his dog, a fully decomposed skeleton. Investigators said it had to have been there a whole year. Which then ties it into... Yeah, ties it in. It was Carmen. 3 gunshots to the head had occurred. Obviously,
execution style.
It is unknown if Carmen was killed because she knew her attacker. Now, to me, that kind of makes it sound like it was a... Like you said, kind of like an execution, but also at the same time something along the lines of like a... Is it possible that because the other children didn't see his face, that she put up a bit of a fight?
Well, I will add this.
Yeah.
The mother made a statement.
Yeah.
To the police.
Yeah.
And said that it could be Carmen because she was a very outspoken young lady and she would have never gone along with everything.
So she was a bit of a stubborn child.
She would have answered back.
Yeah.
And she would have misbehaved and played out and kicked out.
So I guess then it could be possible that she could have kicked up a fuss.
She
saw his face.
It could have been that she kicked up a fuss. It could be that she'd taken off the blindfold. It could have been that she's answered back and was rude and blah 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 blah.
Possible. Now, Operation Spectrum was ahead, lasting for a few years, checking every house, every nearby mansion in hopes to find Mr. Cruel.
Yeah.
While Mr. Cruel was never found, 70 plus people were arrested in Australia for child pornography. So I guess that's the one good thing about this case.
Something good came out of it.
Yeah, like people were,
they were alerted and they were arrested.
But then again,
if you think on how many people,
I'm going to say it's Australia. It's where they dumped most criminals from England and everywhere else, mate. What are you expecting? Yeah.
Between Australia and America.
Okay, from
most of ours.
You're not going to say anything, are you? You just got to be quiet on this. Australia have criminals. Still going to say anything, are you? You want to add anything else to this?
Well, I'd just like to say that Melbourne Victoria Police issued a $200,000 reward for any information leading to the capture and prosecution of Mr. Cruel on the first abduction.
Okay. Now what's it up to?
You really want to know?
Go on.
So they postponed the case in April 2016.
Mm.
25 years after
Yep.
the 1991 affair, and have revised and renewed up to now $1 million for info that leads to the arrest and conviction of Mr. Cruel.
I've got an idea. You've got enemies, I've got enemies. Let's say it was someone who split the money.
Sounds good.
It does.
Sounds good.
It does. We just need one
Now
of our friends to go to Australia.
I need to get my passport ready.
Doesn't want to be a pedophile. So many believe Mr. Cruel was possibly a teacher attacking girls on Saturdays, knowing some by name. Right.
It would make some sense.
2 girls went to the same school, so it's possible.
It's possible.
Like, you're not going to do it throughout the week because you're teaching them, but at least while you're at work, you can prey on them a bit better, and then go.
Yeah, you can understand their circles and friends and their behaviours.
He asked her to get a uniform. That
I will say there was one suspect. Maybe he was he was a helper.
Yeah.
In the gym, I believe it was. Now, his whereabouts are accounted for, but it just goes to show.
Yeah.
That
I'm with you.
You know, you don't necessarily have to be a proper full-blown teacher.
Yeah.
As long as you're in that
and it's
field.
And it's also stated elsewhere that the Australian police force began to see a little bit of change, and they also stated that Mr. Cruel could have done petty crimes before this because it isn't all paedophilic. Because
there's breaking and entering for one.
Yeah, there is burglary. Right. There is possibly a murder, right? But they also believe that Mr. Cruel had raped and killed an old nun. They also believe that he had also held people up at gunpoint. But for me to think that it's possibly a teacher kind of ties in with quite a fair bit.
It ties into knowing the girls, knowing they have school uniforms. He was like, police describe him as pretty much, he's very meticulous in the way that he would scout the families out.
Yeah. He also referred to every girl as Missy, which is what a teacher would.
Yeah, but then to be fair, it's.
Am I saying teacher too much?
Teacher. For me, that's an older generation saying.
Yeah.
Like you would have like different mannerisms as you're going through the years.
Yeah.
Like.
Many believe Mr. Cruel and his tactics, let alone how evidence ended up missing. Many believe he worked for the police force. The police were also under fire by the public as vital evidence doesn't just vanish, but it did. Like we spoke about, there'd be fingerprints on the surgical tape. There would be...
Yeah, they weren't fully...
How can you make yourself something to eat?
It was only a partial fingerprint.
Yeah.
But yet, throughout the year, or the couple of years that these were going on, that managed to disappear.
It seems like Mr. Cruel was like the opposite to Father Christmas. He appears once a year, every Saturday, and just doesn't give you any presents, just ties you up to a
grave. I'll give you a present, but not necessarily the one you want.
Well, at least you get your nails done.
True.
And a bath.
You get a manicure, pedicure.
And fed.
And
your teeth brushed.
Well, it's like going to prison for a day, isn't it?
I want to meet him. We can sit and have a chat.
Before I get in the $1 million reward.
yeah, before that, yeah. One man, however, in 2013 could have been Mr. Cruel. Robert Keith Knight worked in schools and also volunteered. He had been arrested on 2 accounts of sexual assault on minors, and many of his victims spoke out when he was convicted.
Which they would do because they would have the guts to do it at this point in time.
After being released from prison in 2009, he had gathered a mass hoarding of child pornography. He pleaded guilty and awaiting trial leapt to his death from a second-story prison railing and died.
To me, that's guilt. But whether that's guilt for the child pornography rather than murders...
Think about it this way. You're in Australia. Everyone's a criminal. Child pornography is not really a bad thing when you live in Australia.
Well, no, but then if you get caught, you're still going to have the guilt factor.
So, yeah, he could have been. He could have been. Right, so Robert Keith Hall had been a huge suspect for the police from the start, and while they kept a lot of it secret from the public, they had many pedophiles behind bars due to mystical sadistic acts. But as I stated previously, they recently found out that Mystical had killed a nun, like an old nun, raped and killed her. It wasn't just child related.
Maybe it was a precursor. But then, where would you even start? There's no ties to each of the families.
The only ties is the fact 2 of the girls went to the same school and he knew some of them by name. That's their only ties. And it was in the Melbourne area, more recently, many people believe Mystical returned and abducted a 13-year-old girl in 2011, and that case is also open for debate.
It is open for debate. They haven't released anything for it.
To me, it seems the police were sleeping, waiting for him to catch up on something or slip up. But for someone not to provide any evidence, you can go into someone's house, take a pane of glass off, you can make yourself some food, you can rape someone's daughter.
Hair follicles, nothing. It's just sick. Disgusting.
It's sick, it's clever, it's disturbing, and it's unsettling.
It's very unsettling.
Well, we are the unsettled.
That is true.
We're going to get into our theories.
So my theory. See, the one thing that I'm really struggling with is how would he know about the schools? He would have to plan to the minutest of details to figure out their patterns of behaviour, the way that they move around their community, and even their social interactions, like what time they got home, what time the last light went off, what time they got up in the morning, like what was their routine in the morning, who left first, like who was the last one to come home, who was the first one to come home, how long between that first one and the second one was there. There's a lot of planning to go into that aspect. Now, there is one theory that I'm leaning on a little bit more than a few of the others, is that maybe with all of the stuff that have gone missing within Melbourne, Victoria's police network, maybe he worked for, or even interned for the police as in a crime lab, that he was so meticulous about cleaning the girls down, making sure there was no fingerprints, hair follicles, like nothing left, like no physical or even biological evidence. Now, also, I had a sort of like a mind thought that maybe he was some sort of special forces that was also with the police, breaking and entering. Yeah, okay, it's a petty crime, but to do it so well without alerting anyone, like, for instance, removing the window, it's probably held in by putty, but still you would have to have some sort of cutting technique, or getting in and out without alerting anyone in the area, let alone the family. just don't know. What do you think?
So I believe that the first three, we'll call them victims. First three victims were done by Mr. Cruel himself. As for Carmen, I feel that that was more of a violent attack rather than someone that was looking after the first three. Now, as for who I think it could have been, I seem to be drawn more towards someone that works or knew of the family / girls. I mean, Will made a very good point in someone that possibly worked in a detective format, but I feel that that would be too obvious. I feel that that would make it too smart, too clean. Now, you don't have to be a genius to remove a window. You don't have to be a genius to get into someone's home, especially at night time. I guess if you've been stalking out the house for so long, you're going to know how and when the family will sleep. As for who I generally think it is, I am still led to believe it could be someone that possibly knew the girls. Only by the fact that two went to the same school and he knew them by first name. Either that, or he had been really, really close to that family to listen to them call for their daughters, whether their food was ready. I also seem to think that maybe the person was possibly a friend of the family's, and that would also make it so much easier to get around their homes if you've already been inside them before. But whoever Mr. Cruel was, we're never going to find out, we're never going to know. As for the recent case of 2011, I don't think that is related. I am almost certain that Mr. Cruel would be dead by now. And the 2011 case is simply yet again a criminal abducting children. But the case of Carmen being shot in the head, I reckon that was someone else. I reckon that was more of a family attack. Whereas Mr. Cruel himself committed the first three crimes. And that's all I have to go on, and that's all the evidence we have. Conclusion? Anything remotely interesting that stands out? I literally have nothing.
It's purely the methodical way that he's done the first three.
Smart. And as
smart, planned out.
Yeah.
Like every anonymity, yeah, whatever.
That word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that could go wrong, he's thought through.
Yeah.
Like,
but don't you find
the entrance?
Don't you find it a bit weird that he knew one of the girls by name? Because how close would you have to be to someone's home to hear them shout, "Sharon, your dinner's ready"? It just makes it more weird.
And you think, like, but then who knows? Like, he could have been sitting out the front in a car. Like, the kids could have been coming home from school. A friend shouts on the other side of the road.
I mean, it's easy to pick up information when you listen.
Yeah.
All you got to do is walk around the streets, and you could probably get about 6 people's names. Even overhearing people's phone calls. But for someone to go to like your extreme lengths, like you said, like to be very decisive on what you want to happen and how it can happen, like it
and
can't just.
It's like, how can I get to this point?
See, what I've discussed with you, what I've learned is most people, when they don't want their identity to be known, and I wouldn't say this is such a petty crime, but it's not necessarily a murder. But usually, the person that's doing the murder will cover their face.
Yeah.
This one, he kept his face covered, like what you pointed out, to stop the hair dropping. Maybe he did have like long hair. Maybe he had quite longish hair. Maybe he used to be a detective.
Maybe, like,
someone that used to be in the police force.
It shouts out something something, whether it be crime lab or like something as built into him to stop, or whether
Throughout
he's
the
taught
years.
himself.
Yeah, throughout the years, this person's obviously gathered enough information to know don't leave DNA.
Yeah. And how not to, or how to get
now,
around.
Now I'm kind of thinking it could be an ex-detective.
Or a PI.
An ex-detective would be able to find information on people. Names, addresses. He'd be able to find out where they worked, how long they were going to be there for.
And using sources that might not necessarily bring it back to him.
Yeah, I mean, you could...
If you know what I mean, like if you you know, you bail someone out, oh, do me a favour, can you check out this family for me?
Yeah. Or you
like as a PI or something.
Or he still could have had use of that tools.
Exactly. We just don't know.
It's clever though.
It's clever.
Sadistic, clever,
disgusting,
possibly a murderer.
Very unsettling.
Happened in Australia. See, that type of shit wouldn't happen here. In England, we just have the best cases. This one's more of a, hey, I fucked all like 6 daughters and no one found me. Over here, we have people cutting off limbs.
But yeah,
no words. No words. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you guys think, or who you think Mr. Crawler's. I mean, we're kind of stumped, but we're kind of coming up to the conclusion now that it could be an ex-detective or private investigator.
Yeah,
someone along that lines that possibly is not alive now.
No.
And that person, whoever it may be, have taken what he's done to his grave. But bearing in mind, like, he did...
was, what, 40 years ago?
Close to it.
Close to 40 years, and if he was
close to my fucking age, mate.
If he was already 40...
Could have been 50.
Or could have been 50.
Could have done a million crimes leading up to these ones. But they, like I said, they did find out that he did rape and kill a nun. So he doesn't necessarily have the pedo vibe.
Child.
Yeah. This could have just been like a little icebreaker into his later malicious crimes.
Yeah.
It could be just a bit on the side.
It may be like bad choice of words for myself, but it could have just been
a test run for later, more horrific events that never took place, or they never found out.
We never got info about.
Yeah.
Or was never linked. Or maybe all those petty crimes were the precursor to this final act before.
This doesn't seem like it's finished.
No.
It seems like this just...
It just tapered off.
It also seems like he's mocking the police as he's doing it.
Like waiting a year.
Which is also yet again a clever idea, because
he's waiting a year, he's letting the heat die down.
Then does it again.
And then does it again. Same MO, same frequency, same... Or maybe it's just taken, 12 months or 10, 11 months to gather that information.
To plan one hit.
It
Possibly.
It makes sense and then doesn't make sense. It's
Possibly.
up in the air.
It's always up in the air. It's always up in the air.
It's always up in the air on this channel.
It is. So if you like this style of video, subscribe, turn notifications on. We're the Unsettled. I don't know why I pointed to me. I'm the Unsettled. We're the Unsettled.
We're the Unsettled.
We are indeed. And stay tuned for the next one.